Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome again back to the Ag Committee Chairman Benham. First advice I got from Senator Roberts when I was helping write the Farm Bill 5 years ago was to go sit on the tongue of the wagon and listen to the farmers. I've found a couple places more comfortable than the tongue of the wagon, but we've been talking to farmers. And one of their top concerns is what's going on at the CFTC, and maybe they're just looking for some certainty and some clarity. My farmers and ranchers have noticed that the CFTC has been focusing more and more on the administration's climate agenda. In June of last year, you had a voluntary carbon convening to discuss the carbon offsets market. Your role is largely in the derivatives market, which my farmers and ranchers use as a risk management tool. Is it prudent for you to be pushing a carbon market agenda rather than be focusing on your traditional responsibilities?
Thanks, Senator. I would say first and foremost, we are absolutely focused, as I said in my statement, on our traditional markets. This is #1 priority. I'm the sponsor of the Ag Advisory Committee. We've convened a good group, and we're always focused on our agricultural markets above all else. Regarding the voluntary carbon markets convening, as I pointed out earlier, we have to be very cognizant of our jurisdictional markets. And what I mean by jurisdictional markets is that if we have listed futures on regulated CFTC exchanges, then the cash markets become important to us, because if there's potential for fraud or manipulation in a cash market, that fraud or manipulation can be reflected in the markets that I regulate. So as we see more commodity markets become retail-oriented and are unregulated, but are listed on derivatives platforms that are regulated by the CFTC, I think it's very incumbent that we have a look forward to what could potentially be a detriment or an issue for our markets.
Certainly $350 trillion was the number you quoted in derivatives you're overseeing, so I'm sure that does take up a lot of your time, most of your time. We've also noticed that you're looking at climate-related risk to your traditional products. The conversation around ESG requirements and financing has folks worried about access to capital unless they conform to some mandated climate policy. As you study climate-related risk, is it your intention to bar risk management at the CFTC unless a person conforms to climate policies? And I just have to add, farmers and ranchers were the original stewards of the land, and no one is working harder to practice sound environmental farming than our producers back home.
Thanks, Senator. You know, I couldn't agree with you more about that, understanding that farmers are, in fact, the most important stewards of our land. I would say that thinking about the climate issues and some of the extreme weather events we're experiencing, my focus is just to ensure that our markets and the infrastructure that our markets are built on remains resilient as we continue to face dramatic extreme weather events. And this could be from the exchanges to the clearinghouses as well. And I think, to your point, we will not create any policy that will force an action. It is just about ensuring robust, resilient markets that are thinking about future risks, and in this case, weather events that are actually putting a lot of volatility and pressure on commodity prices. And we need to do what we can at the CFTC to ensure that these markets remain strong and resilient.
Thank you. The more flexibility we can give our farmers and ranchers, the better the environment's going to do with their practices. I want to talk about crypto for a second. When it comes to crypto, I've consistently said that my biggest concern is addressing the criminal activity that crypto facilitates. It's recently come to my attention that the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, has set up a U.S.-based entity that internal executive has said is a, quote, de facto subsidiary, end quote, as a way to shield their main platform from regulations. This is the same platform where $2.35 billion in funds that we know about were laundered through their platform. This is concerning, to say the least. Though I'm encouraged to see reports that the CFTC has multiple investigations into Binance for a number of different infractions, I would love to hear more about these efforts outside this hearing, of course, if we're able. Both before and after the collapse of FTX, there's been ongoing conversations about who should have regulatory oversight of cryptocurrencies, the SEC or the CFTC. Do you believe that the CFT has the resources and expertise necessary to bring these out-of-control crypto exchangers, the Wild West, as it's been called, who seem to think that they have the right to do whatever they want, into compliance?
Thank you, Senator. I have full confidence that we have the expertise and personnel to regulate the crypto markets. We also have a legacy understanding of market regulation, which I think can be implied in many respects in the same way over crypto markets. What we don't have is resources. So I think as this committee considers possible regulation for or statutory authority for crypto regulation, I think it would be incumbent for us to have additional resources to implement and impose that regulatory system over the crypto markets.
I'm not sure it's a fair question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about the crypto industry right now?
7.5.
Thank you. I yield back.